you're not going to want to hear this. You are absolutely not going to want to hear this. I'm sorry. I don't mean to insult you, but I have to say something. Sometimes a friend has to tell you something that you need to hear. Are you ready for that? Your greens are ugly. There, I said it. I feel so relieved. Your greens are ugly. When you're painting greens, they're ugly. And greens are the hardest color to get right. So we've brought you a world-leading expert on greens. Devin, let's get you on stage here. And what's the deal? Why are your greens ugly? Your greens aren't ugly. Why are some people's greens ugly?
Well, I think people are terrified of greens. They're overthinking it. And there's a lot of stuff going around out there about how to paint greens, which I kind of think is the incorrect approach. So today I kind of want to dig in on that.
Okay. So you're going to show us how we can take our ugly greens and make them so they're not ugly greens?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So let's get this show started. I'm anxious. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it. Here, I'm going to pull
Art School Live with Eric Rhodes. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhodes.
All right, I said it. Your greens are ugly. Our guest today is going to show you how they're not ugly. Let's show some of his paintings right now so you just have a sense of, and you can tell me, do those greens look ugly to you? Well, those greens don't look ugly. What about those don't have any greens in it? Well, what an incredible painter he is. We're going to be giving you some incredible instruction today, so hang with us today. We have we're going to focus on greens. We try not to necessarily do completed paintings. We try to give you a lesson that's important for you to learn, because we believe anybody can learn to paint. So we're going to get Devin on right now. Devin, welcome to Art School Live. Okay, you're all set up. What's going on here? What do we have here?
Okay, so in order to kind of teach greens, I wanted to start off basically by discussing them just real quick and how people approach greens. But the first thing, just so you know what you're looking at, this is a transparent underpainting that I did just to prepare for this. We're going to go over the top of this, and I'm going to show you a few different techniques that you can use to improve how you approach greens. So I don't know, the first way that I look at greens is to kind of understand that greens are going to be the most common color in the landscape, especially for those of you that are going to the Plein Air convention. Branson, Missouri, that whole area of the Ozarks, it's just covered in greens, and it's very difficult. People overthink them. The way that I look at greens is to understand that there's more complexity in greens than there are in any other color. And that is actually true, and that comes from our evolution. When we would look into the forests, they think we would have to differentiate all of the different greens so that we could hunt more effectively. And so I look at green and I think about it as a color wheel, as its own color wheel. There's reddish greens, bluish greens, yellowish greens. There's different layers of saturation or desaturation or value. So what I generally do when I'm starting, a lot of painters teach to start with a red underpainting and let those reds poke through. I look at it differently, because I feel like the red, if it pokes through, it's going to be really influencing everything, and you're kind of stuck in that harmony, that red on green harmony. If I do that, I'm not reading the subtle shifts as much, because that red is poking through everywhere and it's messing me up. And I know this flies in the face of what a lot of teachers teach, which is to mix red in your greens as if that's some sort of foolproof way to get beautiful greens. And it is for beginners, but what I'm going to do here is kind of run through exactly how I look at greens.
All right, I'm anxious to hear this, because I'm one of those guys that says mix red into your greens.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but
okay,
so you've got if we look at the reference photo down here, so you look through this photo, there's really only a few areas in it that have bright greens. There's the yellow light that's shining in the distance, that's kind of a lemony green. And then in the foreground, down by the bushes on the left-hand side, there's just a few areas of like an army green. What's funny about this reference is this entire reference is all green. It's just different types of greens. And so what I'll do when I'm outside painting, I'm looking to document things more scientifically than I would in the studio. In the studio, I'm more about spirit and soul, and outside, I'm more about study. And so the way that I would approach or tell people to do their greens is to go in and pick the brightest middle value green that you can find in the painting. And the reason we do that is because it's easy to judge that green. We know that we can get that green right. And once you get one green right, what you're doing is you're taking that green and you're using that color to judge what's the next color right next to it. Without this puzzle piece, we can't put the other puzzle piece in place. And so now that I know I have this green here, and by the way, it doesn't have to match exactly. You just need to capture the color temperature relationships. Does that make sense? I hope I'm not being over complicated with this.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right. So you've got this green down. The next way I would do this would be to judge that next bit of green. That's, if you look at the reference, there's a bush right in front. And I'm going to look at that and put down a cooler, more desaturated green right here. Now I know that I'm pretty close on that, and this gives me the ability to then go and connect my next green. Right behind that, if we look, we get an almost violet kind of green, which is the dark accent. Whoops, it's not that red. Right here. Okay. And so now that I've got these three things, I'm able to kind of work my way out from here. And you can paint a beautiful painting with greens. It's really not as difficult as people think. But I think the problem that people have is they're thinking about greens when they go out and they look at a green landscape. They're too in their head thinking green. Don't even think about the color. Think about the temperature and the value. Is this a warm? Is it cool? Is it more blue? Is it less blue? That's the way you should approach greens. And by the way, I think that's the way you just should approach all color. All right, sorry. I should be using these colors up here now. All right, so I'm just going to block in some of this quick so I can get rocking and rolling here. If anybody's got any questions, let me know. There's these subtle shifts right in here. And I just, by the way, when I block in a painting, this whole blocking that you see here, I block everything in with flat shapes. So I'm just simplifying everything, usually blocking everything in as the middle value. And then later, I will break up that into smaller and smaller shapes. And that's how you create the illusion of detail. In a landscape like this, there's a lot of detail. So if you try to come in and attack it all right away, you're going to find yourself in a very difficult situation. All right. So the interesting thing about the bush and the reference, the greens on it right up here are actually very desaturated. They're almost gray. Let's see if I can capture that. So you get almost a completely desaturated green. All right. Now that I've got this right here, the next piece of the puzzle is figuring out what I want to block in for these big shapes in the background right here. So I've got this highlight right here. So I'm actually just going to mix up a purple. Now, I don't see purple that much in the reference, but I do know that purple plays really well with green. And so I'm using that knowledge of color theory to hopefully create a more engaging painting. That purple will look like it belongs there, or it should if I do it correctly. All right, so now that I've got, that might be a little bit too dark, but a lot of you know that we tend to eat up our darks as we go through a painting. And so what I'm doing now is just putting them on a little bit more dark than I normally would in anticipation of that. Whoop. Let's go a little bit more purple here. So if you let red poke through, what ends up happening is all the color in the painting is going to have the same harmony, red on green. Do I still got you guys there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Already. Work our way through here.
We would never leave you.
Yeah, the fun part of this painting coming up as I work my way through this is going to be when we get down here. A lot of you probably,
Hey, Devin,
yeah.
when you're working at the top of the painting, we can't see it because your camera's a little high or a little low. Maybe we can just, there we go. Good. That works. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so in a little bit here, I'm going to be going over the water. And that's going to be a part that I think is a lot of people would probably be waiting for, figuring out how to make the water look realistic, but more importantly, how to attack all of that complexity. And so that's going to be real fun. I just want to get this blocked in real quick, and then we can move down there. I need these darks up here before I can do this, because I need to key these in to figure out what value to paint the water, if that makes sense. All right. So we've got a few darks. I just wanted to mention this as well. For years, I blocked in my darks first. A lot of you might hear that a lot. You know, you always go in, you block in your darks. Well, I learned from another painter, Scott Christensen, that it's actually a little bit easier to block in your middle values. So now, instead of starting a painting by just putting in the dark notes, I try to go find the big flat value shapes. And that's what I'm after. And then from there, you can add your dark accents right into that. All right.
I think that's kind of a trend, middle values.
Yeah, it's weird. It came out of nowhere too. Did you notice that? Nobody was doing it, and then everyone started.
The same thing with gouache. All of a sudden, everybody's doing gouache.
Yeah, I love gouache. I would like to see some big gouache paintings. I want some of those painters to start doing big, epic gouache paintings. All right. All right, I'm just going to get that blocked in. Now, if we look at the water, this is where it's interesting. What would most of you who look at that water describe that color as? There's a part of me looking at it where I'm almost convincing myself it's got reds in it. It's subtle, but it's still, if you were to isolate that in Photoshop, that color in the water there, it would still be on the green end of the spectrum. So what we're discussing here, or in relation to this painting, is that everything in this painting has a green harmony to it. So it may, it may read as a reddish color, but it's still on the green end of the spectrum. So it's a greenish sort of red. Let me see if I can get that figured out here. That's a little bit too purple. So I'll add a little bit of yellow to it. All right. We'll start with that. Let's just get that in there. All right. As we move up, it gets greener over here. The tricky thing for people is color temperature. It's what all of my students seem to have the biggest problem with, figuring out how to even look at color temperature. A lot of people don't even know what to do. And the way that I teach it is to not focus on the hue, which means what type of color it is, yellow, red, blue, violet. Get used to looking at something and going, all right, this is warmer or cooler than what's next to it, slightly darker, that kind of thing. All right. If you notice in the photograph, I don't know if those are lily pads or pond scum. But anyway, if you were to isolate the color of them, it's almost a completely neutral gray. And I've chosen, because I've done many studies of this little pond from Missouri. I've done studies where I made the pond scum kind of a violet or a reddish color, or I settled on an aqua because it kept it within the green end of the spectrum. And it was just more interesting. So I'm going to block that in real quick and then kind of show you how I just want to get some of this paint off right here. And then I'll show you how I handle the green end of the spectrum in this pond scum right here. In order for this painting to look beautiful, it needs to be about the light. There's very few light. I mean, there's just a few little bits of rays coming through in the distance. So let's punch that up, actually. What I like to do, if I have like a focal area, I'll take pure cadmium just to see where I'm at. And I'll pop that down. And then kind of take a look at it. And then from there, I'll edge it out. And what that means is I'll come in and I'll mix up a warm kind of orange. And on the edge of that cad lemon, I'll just add a little bit of orange. This looks terrible, by the way. It'll look bad for a little bit. But then when I blend it, it should look better. And by the way, if you look closely at the photo reference up there, or in the corner down there, you can see that orange. If you squint your eyes, it's in there. It's very subtle. And that orange is what allows a strip of light across the grass. That little warm edge allows it to kind of glow. These are all just sort of little tricks you can use if you're painting greens, or really if you need anything to look lit. Even a moon, you can put a little bit of a rim around it of a warm edge, and it'll help it pop.
So, Devin, Sparky has a question.
Sparky.
Sparky always has the best questions. How about an olive green right out of the tube, or other custom mixed greens? Should you mix your greens with primaries or find the closest pre-mixed in some cases? I guess the question is pre-mixed out of the tube greens versus make your own.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's really a lot more harmony to be had in your painting if you're mixing your own greens. It's not that tubed greens are bad. You could take, I wouldn't really go for an olive green. If I'm going to use a tubed green, it's going to be a pure green. And what I mean by that is olive greens and, I think there's another color called hooker green. There's these colors that are warmer greens. They have a lot of the red end of the spectrum in them, so they're kind of muddied a little bit. And you can easily mix them yourself. So what you can't mix yourself is Viridian. You can try, you can use Prussian. So if I'm going to add a green to my palette, it's going to be something I can't get easily with the primaries that I use. And by the way,
create your own Viridian.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can try, you can get pretty close.
So do you have Viridian on your palette?
No, in fact, I should go over that real quick. So I use a split primary. These are just primary colors. So we got Cad Lemon, Cad Yellow Deep. And on landscapes, I'm barely using this yellow for my greens. It's mostly all this Cad Lemon and Prussian, which I'm going to get to. So we got bright red, alizarin, and then ultramarine, Prussian, a little bit of black over here. Black is great for mixing greens, contrary to what a lot of people think, that you should not put black on your palette. I use it for greens a lot. I just haven't been on this one yet, but I will.
So a split primary, for those who don't know, is a warm and a cool version of each color.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. And the theory goes that if you have a warm and a cool of each color, each of the primary colors, you now can basically mix almost any color. You have the ultramarine, permanent crimson, and the lemon right here. These would be the workhorse colors. These would be the colors that the majority of everything is going to be mixed out of. These other colors, the cad yellow deep and this warmer red, they just allow me to hit certain things, specifically sunset colors, that kind of stuff. That's when I'm using these more, but the bulk of painting is done. And it's kind of similar to, what do they call that? The 4-color process or whatever, cayenne, blue. So you're just
the printing, color printing process. So John in the chat is saying, I'm confused, or I get my confusion about color temperature is due to different artists giving different opinions on which is warmer colors versus cooler, leaning towards green, or colors that lean towards purple. You know, if we pull up a color wheel, which we'll do, color wheel basically shows you things that are warmer and cooler. And if you go by the color wheel, it's where you get into that fringe area where something could be a little bit one or the other. You can lean it one way or the other. But you know, typically, if you follow a warm, cool color wheel, you'll be able to determine that. Do you have any comments on that, Devin?
Yeah, I definitely do. So I think the way I to help with that confusion that you may be feeling from different teachers considering certain colors warmer, and that's all kind of irrelevant as far as the way I look at greens. I'm not ever looking at Prussian on my palette and going, that's a warm green or warm blue. I don't really, pay too much attention to that. What you should be paying attention to is the color that you're putting down warmer or cooler than what's next to it. It's that simple. It's all about what's actually happening up here. It's not
relationships.
Yes, exactly. And it's not even what's about what's happening on the palette. I'm constantly telling my students, put the color up and test it. You got to put that color up, test it, and then you can judge, is this warmer, cooler, more saturated, less saturated than what's next to it? And when you have that freedom, when you're now doing things this way, you can make bold, creative choices. You can actually keep a color temperature, the integrity of the color temperature relationships, and completely change the color. For instance, I could decide to paint this a blue and not a green. And if I nail the temperature in relationship to these two colors and this color, I could paint it blue or purple, and it would still work. That's why you can see weird psychedelic looking paintings where the colors are all.
John is asking, do you consider ultramarine a warm or a cool?
I consider that my cool. I consider the Prussian my warm, because this has yellow in it. It's a little bit on the yellow end of the spectrum, and
Prussian and ultramarine has red in it.
Yes, ultramarine has red, but it's more violet, which still kind of on the color wheel is on the cool side.
Right.
Is how I would look at it. Greens are tricky. It's kind of funny. I grew up in Washington State, and I moved to Missouri. So I lived 14 years out there. And when I left Washington, I was frustrated painting here as a beginner art student because there's these tall evergreen trees everywhere. And I felt like I could never escape having a tall evergreen tree in the middle of my painting. And also I didn't know how to handle the greens. And then I moved to Missouri and I thought, oh, wow, I've got to figure out this green thing. I've never been to a state as green as Missouri.
So since we're having the Plein Air convention in Missouri and the Ozarks, tell people your impressions of the Ozarks, because I think there are a lot of people are like, it's only the Ozarks. What would you say to them in terms of from a painting standpoint?
Yeah, from a painting and just a visiting standpoint, it is one of the most jaw-dropping, beautiful places in the world in the spring. I'm not just saying that. When I moved there, I would send my father photos all the time, driving down through Branson into the border of Arkansas, right there, where the Ozarks kind of turn right in Branson. It's like the English countryside. That's the best way I could describe it. It looks like the English countryside.
That's a great description. And you get that fog
Oh yeah.
That distant fog at the base of the mountains. It's so pretty.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I miss it. I'm so glad to go back. I just moved from there to Washington again. So I'm back in Washington. So the plein air convention is giving me the great reason to go back and see that beautiful area, which I miss so much. All right, so right here, I just want to, this doesn't have to do with greens so much as just, I want to describe simplification. If you look at look at the reference and you see that bush to the right of it, this area I'm working on in the reference, I'm just going to paint the reflection of that green in the water, and I'm going to simplify all of that. I'm just going to
do that. Okay,
yeah.
Do that, and then we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
All right. And I'm just ready. All you have to do to fix that is just go like this, or not fix it, but I'll just put a dark accent, and that'll differentiate where the reflection begins.
That's
all right.
Trick.
We can take a break if you want.
All right, good. Our guest today is Devin Michael Roberts, and we are on Art School Live. We're here every weekday at 12 noon, and our goal is to teach anybody and everybody to paint because we believe anybody can do it. The goal isn't to do a finished painting. It's hard to do a finished painting in such a short period of time. The goal is to teach you something. If you watch any 5 of our instructional videos, you in here, you'll get the courage you need to say, you know what, I can do this. I can learn this, because it's about a system much more than it is about having natural talent. So give up on that idea of natural talent. Hey, I got to tell you about a couple of things. So if you don't know me, if you're new to me, if you're new to Art School Live, we do a lot of stuff. We have this magazine called Plein Air Magazine. We do a lot of stuff. For instance, we have a big convention, which we were talking about, which is coming up in May. We also are taking some trips. And I want to tell you about 2 trips that are coming up, and you can't sign up for them yet. But the minute that we get the website up, you can. So the first thing I want to tell you about is we have a magazine called Fine Art Connoisseur. It's more of a collector's magazine, but most every artist gets it too because of all the pretty pictures. And we always do these, what we call behind the scenes trips. We go to different places. We go to the art museums. Oftentimes we're meeting with the curators or the directors. Sometimes we go behind the scenes, like we went behind the scenes at the Van Gogh Museum, and they actually pulled out a Van Gogh painting and passed it around. We got to hold it in our hands, turn it around, look at it. We do stuff like that all the time. This year, in October, we're going to Japan. And if we can pull that up, we have October 22nd through November 1st. We're going to Fine Art Connoisseur Fine Art trip to Japan. And then we're also doing a post trip to Hiroshima, because a lot of people, that's a must see for people if you're going that far. And we're going to be seeing a lot of Asian paintings. But remember, all Impressionism was rooted in the Asian paintings. And there are the largest collections of Impressionist paintings, more than America. There are more Impressionist paintings in Japan than there are in America, because the second largest collection of Impressionist paintings, we're going to go see those. And we're going to have we're touring, and a really great experience. And then if you happen to be, this is not a painting trip, although you can find a little time here and there to do a painting, and you can certainly get a lot of photo references. And then if you are a painter and you're going on the Japan trip, you can then add on a couple days later, we're going to China. And China, I fell in love with when I went on my China trip last July. And I'm taking a group back because I had such an incredible experience. It was so much better than I thought it was going to be. I was afraid of it. I heard all kinds of rumors about all kinds of things, and none of them were true. It was just spectacular. And so I've put together a wonderful trip in China. It's a painting every day, or pretty much every day, unless we're traveling on that day. And we're going to some of the most spectacular spots. We're going to paint iconic places like the Great Wall. We're going to be we're not painting in the Forbidden City because it's forbidden, but we are going there. We're going to be doing Beijing, going to be doing Shanghai, but we're doing a lot of the little villages and water towns, and some of the most famous paintings in the world have been done in. So that's coming up. And so you as soon as we get the website up, it's probably going to sell out fast. and you're going to have to, excuse me, you're going to have to make a decision fast because we have visas we have to do, and there's a time constraint on that. But anyway, that's coming up. It's going to be spectacular. So you'll learn more about that. If you're not a subscriber to this program, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Follow me on whatever social media you're on. But if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and also give me a follow if you get a chance to do that. I'll tell you about more stuff later. We're going to get back to Devin Michael Roberts. We're going to do this. We're talking about greens. It's so good. I want to get right back to it.
All right. So I'm working on the water now. This is the part that drew me to this painting. I have options down here. What I mean by that is you can really play with the color when you're presented with a neutral. And this is a neutral. If you look at the reference, I bet you if I isolated those pads out there, it would read on a color wheel, it'd be towards the center, be completely neutral gray. That presents me with an opportunity. I mean, you can't come in and paint a green, if I come in and paint it bright red, it's going to look weird. It's not going to look like it's in shadow. So you can't just do whatever you want, but you can really be free to try different colors in certain areas. And I discover all this, by the way. I wanted to share this real quick. I study green constantly. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pop some green apples down on the ground in the studio, and some branches off a tree, and then pile a bunch of green apples next to each other, and I'll study the temperatures, the subtle temperature shifts. If you, as a student, really want to get good at painting color, doing little still life studies like that of subjects that are just one color, like a bunch of red apples or peaches on a red background, or study white on white, that's where you're going to see real bang for your buck growth in your abilities. All right, let's see here. Right now, I'm just kind of mixing up on the surface. I want to go more aqua. So I'm going to grab my Prussian here. And I'm just going to block all of this in as a flat shape. Let's go even brighter. Just to really go all out here. So I'll block in all of this. It's just flat shape. And then I'll cut in. For those of you that don't know what cutting in is, cutting in refers to taking the colors around something. So I'll take this color here. Here, I'll just show you instead of explain it. Cutting in would be this. Or you cut, whoops. You take this dark color and you cut into the lily pads to shape them. But you do it first as a big flat shape. So you squint your eyes, which all of you have probably heard, squint your eyes. And that's essentially, it's pretty simple. When you think about how to do these things, it's just a matter of practice and time. So for those of you that will be attending the convention, it's just about cultivating these habits where you're practicing, at least what I'm going to be teaching, helping people to kind of zero in on or tell me what they think they're struggling with. And I can get in there and tell them what method I would recommend for attacking that problem. Because painting is all problem solving. That's what we do, basically. All right, so the values down here actually get subtly darker. I got to be careful because I can really get stuck in an area of a painting and neglect other areas. So I constantly have a voice in my head telling me, bounce around, don't get stuck there. You want to move around your painting just so you're working on the whole thing at once, bringing it up to a finish. I can actually just take this color here and add some of these pads in. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to finish this painting today. In fact, it would take much longer, but I should at least get it to look somewhat better than this, I hope. All right. I'm going to cut in right here. All right.
You guys have questions, put them in the chat. And if you like what you're seeing, say something. You see it, say something.
Yeah. I did want to talk about this. So when I'm, at this stage right now, I'm basically painting kind of thin. You see how I'm applying the paint in this manner as opposed to this. I'm kind of spreading that paint around. When you're blocking in your greens, block them in flat. But what I should touch on before we end today is I definitely want to show how to spice up your greens. All right. So what this means is you have a flat green. You want to increase interest in that area, but you don't know how. So what I will do is let's take that green. So let's just show if I'm mixing up a green here. So let's just, for argument's sake, say we got a green. I'll do my best to try to match one of the greens in the painting. Okay, so I've got this value of a green right here. What I'll do is, and my students will know this, you splinter off that pool, you squint your eyes, and you mix up a color that is warmer than this color. So you're not thinking about the color as warmer inherently than, in the grand scheme of all color. You're just looking at the relationship. So I will take a green and I'll mix a color that is just slightly warmer. And you see how when you squint your eyes, the line between these two colors disappears?
Yeah, they're the same value.
Yep, exactly. That's how you tell. You squint your eyes. You students out there, you mix up the two pools, you look at it, you squint your eyes, and if they look like they just merge into each other, that means you're good enough, you're close enough. And so what you do is I'll then mix up another one down here that's maybe more on the yellow end of the spectrum. Let's go down here. So we got like maybe I'll go more reddish. I don't know if you can see that down here that well, but so this is probably a little darker, but it's okay. I've got 3 colors that are the same value. Ideally, what you'll then do is kind of pick up those pools, place them.
Put them all up where we can see them because we can't see the bottom one.
Okay. All right, so we've got these 3.
Yeah, there we go.
Let me go a little more red in this one. These 3 colors right here. And then what I'll do is I'll take a brush, like generally the brushes I'm using are synthetic. They're not real hog bristle. So what I'll do is take a kind of a more rougher synthetic or whatever. Look at all that paint on my hand. And I'll grab the brush and run it through all of those different colors that are the same value. So you're basically loading that brush up with marbled paint. This is, by the way, it's called marbling the oil paint. I learned this from C.W. Mundy.
Yep.
And you just pick up all of these different values here, and then you place your stroke down like that, this is good. I know this is kind of hard to see on this painting, but I'll just describe what's happening. There's little bits of purple, yellow, green, and then I'll take a paper towel or a knife or whatever and just tamping that down. That way you can take a painting that you blocked in with flat shapes and you can add a bunch of interest. And by the way, if you look at the photograph, this area right up here, if you squint your eyes, there's a bunch of purples in there. And that's because there's dead branches in there that clump together. And that's why you're seeing these purples. So you're just recreating that. That's a great way to really take your color to the next level, is playing with warms and cools, punching up the interest in an area, right? All right, so I'll block in these darks. I got to go a little more army green now. This is basically, you can get close to a Viridian with Prussian and lemon. And by the way, I get a lot of people that ask me why I use Prussian. It's kind of, I guess, an unusual color. A lot of people tell me that, at least. And I use Prussian because phthalo is just a little bit too pure for me. And but I still want a color with a really high tinting strength. And what that means is you don't need much of this color to tint another color. It's so strong, Prussian, but ultramarine has a low tinting strength. So I need to have at least one blue on the palette that's got some punch to it. All right. At this stage, what you see me doing is I blocked in the flat shapes. Now I'm just kind of squinting my eyes and I'm doing my best to simplify what I'm kind of seeing. And then what I'll do, after I worked on this for maybe an hour, right, or 45 minutes, blocking all this in, I haven't done any blending or manipulating yet. Then what I'll do is take my knife. I don't really use blending brushes. I use a knife for my blending. And what that looks like is this, circular motions, and then I'm wiping. Circular motions, wiping. And or not always circular. Sometimes if I'm recreating the look of blades of grass, I'll grab the edge of the knife and just pull it. See how I created some little blades right there? Right here.
Just indications.
Exactly. Because when you're outside painting, you don't have a lot of time. You've got to find a way to simplify this stuff and do it quickly. Back here, we get a little bit more warm.
Tell me what your thoughts are. What did you say you're going to be teaching at the Plein Air convention?
I'm going to be teaching primarily how to, each day I would assume, because I'm going to be outside, I'm doing field painting. So for those of you that are attending, you'll be able to find out where I am and you can just come ask questions.
So what he's referring to is the field painters are artists that are out there in the field when we're painting. During the convention, we have demonstrations in the morning and through part of the afternoon, and then we all go outside and we paint together. And we have about 80 artists who wander through the crowd, and they have brightly colored hats and stuff so you can see them. And then they will work with you and help you. So if you're struggling, Devin's going to be there as a field painter. So that's going to be great. Yeah. Devin, real quickly, I just want to show everybody this thing about the Plein Air convention, and then we'll be right back.
If you're like most painters, you sometimes wonder if you're good enough to grow, good enough to paint alongside others, good enough to take a leap like this. I want you to hear this. Every master once felt exactly the way you do. The Plein Air Convention isn't an elite retreat. It's the world's largest gathering of plein air painters, but it feels amazingly small. 5 stages running at once means you're never lost in a crowd. You pick the demos you love, you move freely between rooms, you learn at your own pace. Unlike other art conventions where every session is an upcharge, Pace gives you complete access to everything. Every stage, every demo, every session, all included for one price. Other conventions make you pay for every session you attend, and you can't change if you don't love it. At Pace, all sessions are open to all people. Included in your price, you'll find small groups forming naturally. Beginners painting next to other beginners or alongside great masters. Strangers become friends within minutes. At Pace, everyone is an equal, welcomed, supported, and encouraged. No one here judges your skill level. Everybody remembers what it felt like to be new at painting. And here's the best part of the event. You don't ever need to feel alone or to paint alone, not even for a single minute. Pace becomes your tribe. The friendships you make here can last a lifetime.
You know, when it's very comfortable atmosphere, people are all very, very friendly. It's a wonderful experience. I mean, it's a wealth of information.
Then we go outside into the incredible beauty of the amazing Ozarks. Dramatic light, peaceful afternoons, and views that beg to be painted. And you're painting shoulder to shoulder with some of the greatest living artists who have become your newest friends. If you've been waiting for the right moment to grow, to connect, and to feel inspired again, this is it. Join us for 5 life-changing days at the Plein Air Convention and Expo. Seats are limited, so register now and don't miss your chance to discover what you're truly capable of.
Well, I got to tell you, you don't want to be me. And what I mean by that is everybody calls me and they say, why don't you bring the convention to my town? Right. And everybody wants us to do that. Of course, it's hard to do that because we have so many different criteria, that boxes we have to check. But everybody's been saying, bring the convention to the center of the country. And we listened. And we did. And let me just show you this map. It's a little hard to see it on screen, but this map is a driving distance map to the Ozarks, which is basically centered in Branson. And if you're within that middle blue circle, it's under a half a day drive, which is roughly about 6 hours or less. If you're in the purple circle, it's under a day drive. So like if you live in Chicago, it's less than a day to get there to the convention. If you live in the green areas, it's about a day and a half drive, which is pretty reasonable, so it's not so bad. I drive, from Texas to Florida every year, and it takes about, I don't know, maybe a day and a half. So something like that. So it is really a good time to come. We will never in the next 3-4 years be in this centralized location again. And of course, this faculty will never be together again. We have 80 faculty members with 5 different stages. So make sure you come. Devin's going to be there. Devin is going to be a field painter this year. Devin, what are you working on now?
So I wanted to save this area down here just to kind of show you all how I would do this. We've got this little tuft of grass down at the bottom. A lot of students would look at this and they would focus on all of the blades, seeing all of those little details. And what is actually occurring is if you squint your eyes, there's just 2 values. So there's a couple ways you can do this, but I'll just show one. I'll block it in. I'll ignore the darks, the darker greens. So I'm looking at the middle value. Some of those blades of grass, it's kind of an army green, a little bit like that right there. I'll just block the whole thing in like that. That's how I'll attack the detail. And then I'll mix a darker color green. Then I'll come in like this. And right into that color, I'll just place these darks down. I like to do a lot of manipulating and painting up on the surface. So I'll place these down and then I'll grab my knife. And I'll merge that because you can just get more interesting things happen this way. If you kind of unexpected, dare I say, happy accidents.
I call that deconstructing.
All right. Okay, so you get some of that in there. And then if you really want to be a detailed painter, at that point, you could come in and add details over the top, of course. When I'm outside teaching at the convention, I'm going to basically be showing people how to simplify. That's the thing I see that people need to work on most, is learning to see those shapes. It's easy for us teachers to tell you, just simplify it. But learning how to do it, that's a whole different thing. And I love doing that, seeing the light bulb go off in a student when they finally figure out how to approach the detail. Because it's so much easier than people think.
The number one question I get is, how do I get looser?
Oh, yeah. They detail and looser. A lot of people want to know how to paint loose detail, like Richard Schmid style, all of that kind of stuff. But for painting looser, my main thing is there's no difference between a photorealism and loose artwork except time. That's it. That's the difference between a photorealist painting. Even the most photorealist paintings by Gerhard Richter would be like blocked in the same way that an impressionist painting would. So for instance, this is pretty, I won't say impressionist, maybe a little bit, but it's definitely not super detailed or realistic. I can turn this into a photo. It would look just like a photograph. The only difference between painting loose and painting tight is that the tight painters spend way, way, way more time just detailing, breaking things up. So if you want to be a loose painter or a tight painter, it all starts at the same place, value shapes. All right. And by the way, this is boring, these colors down here. So what I might do, and this isn't in the reference, but this is where I might come in and add those pools I was speaking of, or I'm sorry, warm and cools, where I splinter the pool off. Let's take a blue. Whoop, that's too much. So I might come in and just speckle a little bit of some purples down there and blues and just create a little bit more interest. These darks are essential here. They anchor the water to the land. See, I've already eaten up my darks. There's areas of this painting where I'm okay with what's occurring. Right in here, I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with this. And that's because I've eaten up the darks. I have students ask me all the time, or they won't ask, they'll say, how, I'm never going to be as good because I can't nail the value like you can. And I have to tell people, I do not nail the value. I have to redo areas constantly. And it's, you build it up, you tear it down. I mess things up so much. You just don't see those errors because I don't show everyone. All right. So I'm just trying to darken these down here. It's kind of looking a little bit better. I'll have to finish this and then put it up on my social media. All right. The tricky part is the water breaking all this up. You've got these little holes where the water's poking through, and that's the tricky part. See, like that? You want them to look flat. So when I'm painting, I'm usually imagining the landscape as a grid. It's another great little tip I learned. So if you imagine the grid, you've got all these lines going back to the vanishing point, and then you've got a grid that gets smaller. So I'm thinking about the grid like, for instance, there would be grid lines like this, going like that. And I'm trying to match my these little holes where the water's coming through to that grid in my mind, so that it looks like the pond scum is laying flat on the water. Because if you don't do that, your little marks, they'll look weird, and it just won't look like it's real.
Joe McGurl says that even though something might be angled, you might be a little better off to try to make it feel horizontal. Otherwise, it won't read right.
Exactly. There is stuff like where you learn the science of observation as best you can, but sometimes what the painting needs is not necessarily what is real. I get comments online where people are asking about, or they'll mention, the moon is at the wrong angle, or it wouldn't be over there with the colors like, and hey man, that's not what I'm after. I want to evoke a feeling in the viewer, a memory. When we have dreams, I would be willing to bet most of the time there's going to be tons of scientific inaccuracies in the dream. I'd wager on it. So that's, That's kind of what I'm after. Those are the artists I like.
All right, we're to a point now, guys. We're unfortunately not going to be able to finish this, and we're at a point now where we're going to have to hang it up. Devin, this has been wonderful. This has been a great demo. I think a lot of people got a lot out of it. The greens, and everybody gets to see Devin now. So you're going to get to see him live and in person at the convention. That was fabulous. You did a really terrific job. We're going to have you back for sure.
I would love to. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Eric, and thank you everybody for watching.
And we were trying to figure it out earlier where we met originally. It was at the
Like-
Lighthouse Plein Air event back in West Palm Beach or Jupiter.
Yeah, it would have been 2016, years ago. Yeah, I was just a young lad then.
Well, it's all relative, right? Okay,
Yeah.
well, everybody come and see Devin at the Plein Air Convention. And Devin, make sure you visit his website, and whatever he's got, go get it. That'd be great. Devin, thank you so much.
Such a pleasure, Eric. Thank you.
Terrific. Okay, well, that was really, really good. I think we all need more time on greens, and that was a really good lesson. So thank you, Devin. We have so much going on, and somebody just mentioned in the chat, these guys spam us. They send us a lot of email. That's true, we do. And I apologize for that. But here's what happens. I had this guy come up to me at one of the events, and I was this week at Winter Art Escape, which is coming up soon. I'll be on stage, and I'll be talking about some of the stuff that we do. This guy came up to me in the Adirondacks. He said, "I didn't know you did a convention." And he said, "I didn't know you did these trips." I said, "Well, we email it." He says, "Well, you sent so much email, I stopped opening it." And I said, "Well, that's the deal." I said, we sometimes produce 2 or 3 new instructional videos every month. We sometimes do 2 or 3 new events every month. We have, we have all these things, conventions and retreats and just all kinds of stuff. And I said, it's tough for us. And if you have a better way for us, we'd love to know what it is. But we have so much to communicate that your best bet is if you're not opening it, you're missing it. So, just open it, skim it. If you don't like it, just close it and delete it. But if you get off the list, then you're going to miss out on all this cool stuff. So I know it's a lot. So my apologies. Anyway, guys, make sure you subscribe to this program. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. We came during COVID and we stayed. And we've been here, I don't know how many thousands of shows now, but every weekday since COVID began. And we're here for you. We want to serve you. We want to bring you things to do, things to learn, ways to grow. And by the way, speaking of new things, we have at least 2 new things coming up that we're going to be talking about, not to mention the new China, not to mention the new Japan, new retreats, new events, new services, all kinds of things. It's just what we do. So stick with us. Make sure you subscribe to this program on YouTube. That would be really helpful. And remember, if you watch any 5 of these programs, you're going to get the courage you need that you will say, you know what, I can do this. I can learn to paint. Mondays are Marketing Mondays. Fridays are Feedback Fridays. The exception to that is I'm going to be gone, right? And so if I'm gone, I'm not there to do them all. So my apologies in advance. Next week, I'm going to be off because of Winter Art Escape in Hilton Head in Savannah. We got about 103 people, and we're going to have a blast painting together for a week and sitting up at night, playing music and having fun. We wish you were there. It's sold out. The next event is Paint the Adirondacks. That is coming up in June. Anyway, thank you guys for watching today, and we hope you have a really terrific day. Thanks again to Devin. Bye-bye.